So you're ready to start a business in Iowa. Well, that's great, but the idea of all the paperwork, legal rules, and approvals already has your head spinning, and you're not alone with that. So this video here will break down exactly how to start your LLC in Iowa, step by step, without the legal jargon or all the overwhelm. I'll cover everything from picking a name to filing the one form that actually makes your business official. And one thing to note before we get started, if you skip one simple thing up front, it could derail everything that you've built. But we'll get to that here in a minute. Now, first, let's talk about why Iowa is a great place to start an LLC. So if you're trying to start your own business and you want a state that actually makes it easier for you, Iowa is one of the greatest places for that. So for starters, it's known for being one of the most affordable states to start an LLC, not just in fees, but in how little bureaucratic nonsense you have to deal with. You won't need a state-level business license just to open your doors, and they keep ongoing requirements pretty light. And while some states, they will hit you with, annual reports and paperwork, Iowa, they keep it chill by only requiring you to file every 2 years. Now, with a steady economy, low startup friction, and a hassle-free approach to compliance, Iowa gives you a real shot to build something without getting buried in all the red tape. But before you start, printing business cards, there really is one thing that can make or break your brand from day one, and that's picking the right name. And yeah, there's more to this than just being clever. But I have to say, before we jump in too deep here, here's one thing to keep in mind. So starting your business, it should be exciting, not overwhelming. But forming an LLC on your own, that can get, confusing pretty fast with all the legal forms, rules, and easy to miss details. Now, I'll walk you through everything that you need to know in this video. But if any part here feels confusing, I've got a favorite LLC formation service that makes the whole process super simple and stress-free. It's guided, beginner-friendly, and only costs $39. So if you hit any bumps along the way during the video, just click right up here to get step-by-step help setting up your LLC the easy way. All right, so let's talk about your business name here, because this really is where a lot of people, they either get stuck or they just make a mistake that really slows everything down, which is what I was, hinting at earlier in the video here. So on the surface, coming up with a name, that sounds fun, right? It's creative, it's, exciting. But here's what no one tells you. It's got to follow some legal rules. And if you skip this step or, guess your way through it, you could end up wasting time and money along the way. So in Iowa, your LLC's name has to be unique from any other registered business in the state. That means that your name, it can't be too similar to something that already exists. And it also needs to include something like LLC or LLC at the end, so it's clear that you're a limited liability company. So how do you actually check if your name that you want is available? Well, the Iowa Secretary of State has an online business entity search tool, which is linked to in the description below, along with every other resource that I mentioned in this video. Now, you'll want to run your idea there first before you fall in love with it. Now, if your perfect name is taken, that tool will help you know that it's time to pivot. And you might just need to tweak it slightly, like adding another word or, changing the structure too. It just depends. And if you find a name that you love, but you aren't quite ready to file all your paperwork yet, Iowa will let you reserve it for 120 days with a simple form online. Now, this step, it might feel small, but it's a make or break move, because if you create a name, build a logo, maybe even buy like a domain name, only to find out that it's, not legally available, that's a huge reset to deal with. But once your name is locked in and cleared, you're ready to tackle the next big question, which is who's going to be your registered agent, and what exactly does that even mean? So here's the deal. Every Iowa LLC is required to have a registered agent. This is the person or company that's responsible for accepting important legal documents on your behalf. So, think of like government notices, tax forms, lawsuits, all that goes through them first. Now, you can be your own registered agent, but there are some trade-offs to that. So for starters, registered agents, they need to have a physical Iowa address, no PO boxes. And they must be available during regular business hours every weekday. So if you're working a day job, or running a mobile business, or you just don't want legal notices showing up at your front door, or you don't want your personal address published online in the public record, because yes, that also happens if you are your own registered agent, you might want to go with a registered agent service. Now, the good news to this, these services, they're pretty affordable, quite frankly. Now, personally, my preferred provider that I've used myself is Northwest Registered Agent, which you can click on at any time in the video right up here if you need it. They're known for their strong privacy protections, excellent customer support, and straightforward pricing. Now, if you hire them to help form your LLC, the cost is only $39 plus state fees, which you'd have to pay regardless, even if you do it all yourself. Oh, and don't worry if you ever, change your mind about this. You can always switch your registered agent in the future by filing an update with the state. But getting this step right is key because it helps you stay compliant and protects your privacy. So now that the official bases are covered, let's get into the paperwork that actually creates your LLC in the eyes of the state. And this part's probably easier than you think. All right, so you've got a name and you've got a registered agent figured out, right? Now it's time to actually make your business official in the state of Iowa. So this is where you file something that's called the Certificate of Organization. It's basically the birth certificate of your LLC. So here's the good news. This step is a lot simpler than most people expect, right? So you're not, writing a business plan or writing your life story here. All the state really wants are a few basic pieces of info. So the name of your LLC, the name and address of your registered agent, and who's filing the document, which is usually you. The fastest way to file is online through the Iowa Secretary of State's website using their fast track filing system, which is quick, efficient, and you can get approval usually within 1 to 2 business days. Now, if you'd rather go old school, you can mail in the paperwork, but just know that that's going to take a little bit longer to process. Once this is approved, you're officially a business owner in the state of Iowa. From here on out, you can sign contracts, open a business bank account, and legally operate under your LLC's name. Before you pop the champagne with all this, there are a few more steps to fully set things up, especially when it comes to taxes, banking, and keeping everything running smoothly. So let's look at what you need to do after the paperwork is stamped and your LLC is already born. All right, so assuming that you file your certificate of organization and your LLC is officially recognized by the state, that's a huge milestone, so congrats. But it's definitely not the final step, right? To really get your business up and running, there are a few critical things that you still need to knock out. So first up, you need to get an EIN or Employer Identification Number from the IRS. This is basically your business's social security number. You'll need it to open a business bank account, file taxes, and hire employees if that's part of your plan. The best part, it is completely free and you can apply directly through the IRS site in just a few minutes. Now next, even though Iowa doesn't legally require it, you'll want to create an operating agreement. So this is an internal document that outlines how your LLC will be managed, who owns what, how profits are divided, what happens if someone wants to leave, etc. Now, it's not filed with the state, but it's seriously helpful down the road if there are ever disagreements, or you need to prove that your business and your personal assets are separated, or you're raising any funding. And from there, you want to go open a business bank account. So mixing your personal and business finances is not just messy, it can actually jeopardize your liability protection. Banks will ask for your EIN and your approved certificate of organization, so have those handy when you're doing it. Lastly, double check whether your business needs any local or industry-specific licenses. So even though Iowa skips a general business license for the state, certain professions or cities might still have their own rules like restaurants or health services and others. Now up next here, let's break down what this whole process is going to cost you to start up, but also maintain so that you can plan your launch without any surprise expenses. Now, the only required cost to form your LLC in Iowa is the state filing fee when you submit your certificate of organization. That's a one-time fee, and it officially registers your business with Iowa. You'll also need to factor in your registered agent. So if you serve as your own, as I said, there's no fee. But if you hire Northwest registered agent, you'll pay $39 for the first year and $125 per year after that to stay in compliance. And then there's your biennial report. So instead of filing every year like in some states, Iowa only requires this every 2 years. It's really a simple online form that helps the state keep your business info up to date that costs $30 when filed online or $45 through the mail. And finally, consider the cost of opening a business bank account, which usually has a small minimum deposit requirement. And also any local licenses or permits, which really vary depending on what your business does and where it's actually based in the state. Now, in short, Iowa keeps startup costs low and ongoing fees simple, which makes it a really solid choice for entrepreneurs who want to stay lean while they're building something new. Now, again, to help with this entire process and make it as easy as possible, I do recommend that you use a service like Northwest Registered Agent, which you can click right up here to go ahead and check them out. And they really will help you stay in compliance year after year while you just focus on trying to run a profitable business. Now, if you have any questions for me or are a little bit confused about the process, just drop me a comment below and I will do my absolute best to help you out as soon as possible. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.